In the last month, I have poured frankly unsafe quantities of anime into my eye holes. I knew going in that this winter would only make that worse, which is why, when it was still coming, I preemptively made a video about the 13 big-ticket sequels descending upon us concurrently. Except that was a lie, there are actually 14. I forgot about Uma Musume, which, for a gacha moe anime, slaps super effing hard. Also, on the smaller scale, Show by Rock, the Orphan reboot, and Shinchuka Ichiban are back too, but I do not have the brain bandwidth left to properly acknowledge them now that winter has came. The collective slapitude of those 14 plus 3 sequels is so overwhelming that I was kinda hoping most of the 27 new full-length anime dropping alongside them would be disappointing enough for me to cut this list short. Because in case you don't math so good, that is 44 anime, 9 of which I am already obsessed with, and I really want to get into Yuru Camp. That said, I'm disappointed to report that this winter isn't disappointing at all. It may, in fact, be the best season of anime. Haruhi help us. All 10 of the shows I'm about to recommend, I recommend glowingly. There are a few necessary honorable mentions on top of those, and this winter has gifted me, personally, with 3 of the most roastable anime I've seen since 2 weeks ago. But we can talk about those later. Right now, these are the ones to watch for winter 2021. Normally, I try to save the best one to watch for last, and the second best one is still waiting for you at the end of this video, but as soon as I finished watching it, I knew I needed to make absolutely certain that every single person who clicks this is aware of Wonder Egg Priority. An anime about a troubled young gamer girl named Ai Oto who finds a potential escape from those troubles in a mysterious egg that a mysterious voice in a mysterious underground arcade tells her to break so she can change the future. If you've seen anime, you know that sort of thing always goes well. Already, your eyeballs are doing a lot of the work of selling this anime for me. Its visual style is instantly reminiscent of Kyoto Animation's animation, only instead of showing us young adults basking bittersweetly in the waning glow of adolescence, Wonder Egg Priority uses its vibrant colors, emotive motions, and fancy camera effects to subject us and them to brutally real and visually imaginative psychological horror. In my notes, I called this Hyouka meets Madoka because it rhymes, but Naoko Yamada didn't direct Hyouka, and this is so specifically evocative of her work that I must instead describe it as a silent voice if certain characters were about 3 seconds later to certain scenes. Fair warning, Wonder Egg Priority deals with themes of depression, social anxiety, bullying, and suicide in ways that made me, as someone who's personally wrestled with those first 3 things, feel not just seen, but exposed. If you've dealt with the last one especially, proceed with caution. But do proceed, because the depth into which this script, penned by veteran Real TV writer Shinji Nojima, dives as it explores these topics, and the characters grappling with them, is immense. Yeah, this anime will extract some quality tears from your face, as well as maybe a few enthusiastic heck yeahs when things get even more weird. And it'll make you think. A lot. Each character's personality and backstory is presented as a mystery, not all of which are explained. But the clues are there if you want to rewatch episodes, picking apart symbolism and dialogue to fully understand every facet of every one. Don't worry if you don't want to put that much work in, I'll do it for you in some video essays, and Ai Oto's story is plenty strong by itself. I've got a feeling that the 3 girls on the poster next to her will offer equally compelling, complementary tales in due time. I'm just saying that if you do want to rewatch every episode of this one a whole bunch of times, I've got a feeling that you'll find it very rewarding. If it doesn't fully scratch your itch for pretty, complicated girls discovering themselves while dealing with surreal supernatural threats, though, I have good news for you, because this season also contains Otherside Picnic, which I can only describe as lo-fi lesbians to imbibe eldritch knowledge and lose your mind to. This anime has one of the coolest cold opens I've ever seen. Not the coolest, that's coming up in 1, 2, 5 spots, but definitely up there, lying alone in a desolate field in a puddle that's at once shallow and impossibly deep, surrounded by bizarre, broken geography and architecture. Sorao Kamikoshi wonders aloud what will happen if she dies here. She concludes that out of all her no friends, the first people to notice will likely be school administrators wondering where her money went. Lucky for her and the college accountants, beautiful, blonde Toriko Nishina arrives in the nick of time to pull her out. Unlucky for both of them, there's a thing made of static and terror not far behind Toriko. It's called a kune-kune, or wiggle-waggle, and if you look directly at it, you will go insane. That's just one of many internet and urban legend creatures that lurk in this mysterious, desolate space known only as the Otherside, and once they take care of it, Toriko asks Soro to be her partner in crime as she hunts more of them for fun, profit, and personal reasons, which strikes Soro as a pretty bad idea, but as we've already established, she doesn't have a lot going on, so she may as well run with it. I don't want to spoil much more than I've said already. A lot of the fun in Otherside Picnic lies in trying to wrap your brain around the strange rules that govern the titular supernatural space. The rest of the fun lies in watching these two quirky characters unravel under its influence and become increasingly intertwined as they try to hold each other together. And their chemistry really does make every second of those interactions a treat. If you enjoy off-kilter romance and mystery, keep a close eye on this one, but not too close, if you value your mental health. If you're worried about your physical health, Cells at Work Code Black won't fix much, but it'll at least help you laugh about it. This seinen spin-off of the shonen edutainment smash hit of the same name minus a couple words stars a white blood cell armed with one katana and two bazookas, and a red blood cell in desperate need of some coffee, who live and work in a body that desperately needs less coffee and more sleep. The original Cells at Work asked you to envision your body as a company, with each cell doing its own job diligently in order to keep the whole place running. It's not a perfect metaphor. The company also needs to be an entire town to make it work, which is the most horrifying thing a real company can be, but for the most part, it's a fun, memorable way of exploring our body's functions and the things that can get in their way, from bacteria to cancer. Quality kids programming that adults can enjoy too. Cells at Work Code Black, simply Cells at Work Black in its homeland, puts us in a different sort of body that's run like a different sort of company. One that subjects its workers to long, exploitative, exhausting shifts under poor conditions and hostile supervisors whose toxic attitudes filter down into the wider company culture. In America, we call such businesses AAA game developers. The colloquial Japanese term for it is black company or black corporation, and this is a black comedy, so I take some issue with the English localizers spoiling sublime wordplay by adding code to the title, but what can you do? If you're employed by such a company and can't unionize, not much besides suppressing your emotions and working until you drop. What makes this premise especially brilliant is that the primary causes of this body's overwork-inducing health woes are stress and exhaustion, common symptoms of working for a black company. So at the same time as it satirizes the most vicious, auto-cannibalistic corporate culture to be found in a country that needs a word for when you work so hard you die, karoshi, this anime offers an impressively thorough curriculum explaining exactly how such companies karoshi you, and also how the things you might do to cope with that, like smoking, only make that worse. Needless to say, this one's pretty dark, but if you have a dark sense of humor and like learning stuff, you're gonna love it. Okay, this selection's been a bit grim so far, and real life's giving us plenty of that already, so I want to shift gears to talk about an unambiguously feel-good anime, and none this season feel gooder than Horimiya, a sweet, cute slice-of-life rom-com about two seemingly opposite teenagers who discover they have about as much in common as they thought they did, but in a way more interesting way than they ever imagined. Kyoko Hori's basically the queen of her school, friendly, popular, academically exceptional, and as such, she's never said more than a few words to her quiet classmate, Izumi Miyamura. Everyone at school takes the unkempt loner for a sullen otaku, when really he's not all that geeky or smart, and just uses his long, messy hair and stuffy winter uniform to cover up all his sick piercings and tattoos. Crouching Dweeb, hidden Himbo. Hori discovers this side of him one weekend when he helps her lost little brother Sota get back home, and he, in turn, discovers that the straight-A socialite is a bit of a homebody in her off hours who spends most of her time doing chores and taking care of Sota in lieu of their work-traveling parents. The idea that everyone has a hidden side of themselves that they don't show the world or their classmates isn't exactly an uncommon theme in romance manga and anime, but Horimiya handles it deftly, making both sides of every character fascinating and endearing. And there are a lot of characters whom both the anime poster and manga covers give near equal billing to the main pair. I can't speak to the depth of all those characters yet, but I will say that I want to both hang out with and hug every single person who opened their mouth in the first episode, and that's generally a good sign for a character-driven comedy. That episode delivered both big laughs and big feels with strong, expressive animation and snappy, stylish cinematography and editing. I don't know what I expected from the director of Speed Grapher and Shinsekai Yori and the writer of almost every anime that immediately comes to mind when I say the word ecchi, also working Watamote, Your Lie in April, and Elfen Lied, but Horimiya is wholesome, fun, and eminently charming. A can't-miss show if you enjoy laid-back anime comedies, romantic or otherwise. Now, if you enjoy the more high-energy, shouts and slapstick Konosuba variety of anime comedy, then Suppose a Kid from the Last Dungeon Boonies Moved to a Starter Town might be more your speed. The plot synopsis is that title. Lloyd is a young wannabe adventurer who goes from that one place to the other place, which is more specifically the capital of a kingdom, in order to attend their soldier academy and become the man he's always dreamed of being. Having grown up in the endgame woods of his JRPG world in a town founded by adventurers who beat a demon king and were too tired to walk back, Lloyd is, of course, the most powerful person in 100 miles of the capital, and everyone knows it except him. See, Lloyd was the weakest kid in his village and thus is humble, soft-spoken, and deeply insecure. Being unaware of his stupid high power level, he does nothing to hide it, so all of the trained soldiers and mercs around the academy and capital are constantly quaking in terror of the very friendly young country bumpkin meekly admiring their cool armor and asking them for directions. This never stops being exceptionally funny. The whole comically OP protagonist bit is about as played out as the JRPG fantasy parody bit at this point, and the misfit of Demon King Academy did take it to its logical conclusion, but Last Dungeon Boonies consistently manages to subvert the cliches of both in clever ways. When a beautiful, blonde, battle-hardened adventurer fell in love with Lloyd at first sight of his might and started following him around, for instance, I braced myself for wish fulfillment cringe, but then the anime quite hilariously reminded me that actually that's something an axe murderer would do. Also, the other hot girl in Lloyd's orbit very vocally only wants to use him to make money. Who knows how long that dynamic's gonna last, but while it does, it's very funny. Of course, yandere's good-natured kids who don't know their own strength and opportunists who take advantage of them aren't anything new either, like Dragon Ball did most of that when it was a comedy, but Last Dungeon Boonies uses those elements in a way that feels fresh and gets big laughs. Some of that is owed to the goofy, exaggerated animation used to sell those gags, but the writing is also fundamentally solid. It's not easy to successfully parody an already semi-comedic genre, and like its protagonist, this humble little comedy hits a lot harder than you'd expect just looking at it. There's more to some people than meets the eye. That's also a running theme in Kimono Jihen, a dark shonen mystery anime about an occult detective named Kohachi Inugami who arrives in a small mountain village one day, investigating the strange appearance of rapidly rotting animal corpses at the behest of a local innkeeper. Inugami quickly finds himself drawn to an odd young boy working out in the fields, Doritobo, so nicknamed after a mud-dwelling yokai by cruel village kids who shun him for being different and smelling weird. Inugami's detective nose is on the right trail, though. Quiet, diligent kids like Doritobo often tend to be observant, too, and as he spends most of his time working outside, this kid gets plenty of chances to observe. With his help, Inugami gets a much clearer picture of how the village works and who its important inhabitants are, and the case quickly starts to open up before him, but many questions still hang in the air. I'll leave you to discover their answers for yourself, as Obviously, that's a lot of the fun in a mystery. I promise you, though, they're pretty darn satisfying. The series commits to its supernatural theming, and its creature designs are awesome, which is a solid quarter of the puzzle in any horror-themed anime. Another third is atmosphere, and Kemono Jihen has that in spades. A sprinkle of hard-boiled detective-tude here, some cozy comedy to offset it there, and when it needs them, some capital S spooky vibes all around. This show manages to be legitimately unnerving in ways that few horror anime can directly match. Without spoiling things, I also see a lot of long-term potential in many of the story hooks it casts out toward the end of its first episode. Right now, I'm kinda wishing I'd known about it before writing several of my recent videos. It looks like it's doing a lot of things I like very right. I just hope I'm doing the vague talking around it thing right, because its first episode packs in some great surprises, and I want them to leave as strong an impression on you as they did on me. On that note, I'm pretty sure the opening minutes of Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, will stick with me till the day I die, especially if I happen to die in some sort of car accident, because that's exactly how it starts, showing its unemployed 34-year-old main character being dragged from the wreckage to an operating table on which he bleeds out in first person, before he at last reincarnates into another world as an infant, a thing he only realizes he is when he goes to grab for some titty in one of the best directed and sound designed introductory jokes in anime. Period. Instantly, I was hooked. This is the furthest that any anime has ever gone to immerse us in the whole isekai business, painful truck-kun encounter and all, and it just keeps getting better from there. Watching our hero, Rudius Greyart, apply his combination of adult knowledge and hyper-malleable child brain to learning and progressively dissecting the world's magic system, all while his newlywed adventurer parents do newlywed things they don't think their kid understands yet, is simultaneously fascinating, deeply nerd-relatable, hilarious, and immersive. Rarely have I seen magic with this much texture. And that is far from the only great animation to be found here. The early sequences of Rudius running around the cottage doing kid stuff remind me heavily of Mamoru Hosoda's films, with their naturalistic movement, sharp camera work, and slick editing. With gamers, writer-director Mamoru Okamoto deeply first impressed me. With this, he has instantly become one of my favorite anime creators ever. And with Konosuba's art director Masakazu Miyake, Land of the Lustrous and Yorimoi's composer Yoshiaki Fujisawa, and sound design god Jin Aketagawa on his team, this show is in the best hands. Aesthetically speaking, Mushoku Tensei is unimpeachable. Not everyone can say that. Its dialogue, plotting, and pacing are all perfectly on point in terms of both comedy and serious storytelling. The only potential point of contention I can see is that the concept of a grown man-child in a child's body macking on ladies is kind of inherently creepy, though far less creepy here than in last season's Karoshisekai Yashike, By the Grace of the Gods, where the main lady is 11 and the romance 100% sincere. Mushoku Tensei at least makes it subjectively hilarious, with objectively tight comic timing and delivery. Please note, I'm not saying that By the Grace of the Gods is inherently bad. It didn't make my worst anime list for a reason. I'm only saying that, for some viewers, ignoring the egregious 39-ness of its protag-kun will be a prerequisite to enjoying its slime-ranching non-action. But we're not talking about that isekai right now, and even in a season with ReZero, Slime, and Log Horizon, this isekai stands out as one not to be missed. Shockingly, it's not the only one. So I'm a Spider, So What may not be quite as impressive in the visual department, but it's got a hell of a story hook and a fantastic main character. In her old life, Kumoko was a nobody gamer girl going nowhere fast, but after a strange explosion puts her entire class on the fast track to reincarnation, she's even worse off. While all the cool kids got isekai'd as OP magic warrior prodigies, she came back as a spider. Like a pretty big spider from some kind of dungeon, but still a spider. And Kumoko says to that, "So what? I'm a min-max the best spider build I possibly can." To be clear, I'm not knocking the visuals. In fact, the entirely CGI main character is exceptionally well modeled and animated, with a wide range of expressions, strong posing, and smartly built shaders that blend near seamlessly with the show's 2D elements. And the other monsters in her cave look pretty great too. It's not quite on Beastar's level, but it's clear that the anime industry at large, and this specific team, has learned a great deal from Studio Orange's success in 3D animation. Because you're not gonna believe this. I'm not sure I believe it, and I'm the one about to say it. This is from the same studio and director as Berserk 2016. Talk about a glow-up. Kumoko, unnamed spider as of episode 1, as we're told, along with the word rock many times by the entirely useless appraisal skill that she foolishly picks first, is due for her own glow-up in due time. We see as much in the OP, and she does kill a lizard by the end of episode 1, which is pretty darn impressive for a spider, but at the same time, her classmates are entering hero school, and from what the light novel readers say, it's nowhere near the same level of glow-up as that of, say, Rimuru Tempest. She's still gonna be a spider, just, you know, a spider on G Fuel, working with optimal spider build strats to survive and thrive as best she can. And that is cool as heck. On several levels. We don't have nearly enough anime that explore the perspectives and experiences of inhuman creatures. We don't have nearly enough isekai that address the unique challenges of adapting to an entirely foreign environment, or that challenge their heroes by limiting and specializing their power sets. Most importantly, we don't have nearly enough lady protags with can-do attitudes who beat the odds with willpower and gumption. You know, like Bookworm. Kumoko carries this anime with her winning personality, and I am already ready to root for her every step of her journey. Actually, I'm feeling pretty tempted to go read ahead on that journey in the light novels on Bookwalker. You know, by using the promo code BASEMENT for a 600 yen discount at checkout. Sadly, Spider's not on sale right now, but they are offering coin back and bonus items for Reincarnated as a Slime and all its spin-offs and manga versions as part of their big Season 2 promotion. Links to that, and also So I'm a Spider, So What, because I've heard the light novel's really good, in the doobly-doo. Rooting for a good underdog is one of the great joys in anime, one that sports anime are particularly adept at delivering. Haikyuu is the go-to example for good reason. It set a new standard for the genre, introduced a massive cast of lovable characters who will live on in our headcanons forever, and revitalized Japan's high school volleyball scene just for good measure. Any new sports anime, especially if it's about volleyball, will inevitably live in its shadow, and 2.43 Seiin High School boys volleyball team owns that by telling a darker, more mature, and dramatic volleyball tale. Like a highlight reel of Haikyuu and a few other genre classics, 2.43 follows a genius setter whose shitty personality ended up alienating him from all his old teammates, but who finds a chance at redemption in helping a ragtag group of dorks at his new school transform their glorified going-home club into a proper sports ball unit. Wisely, 2.43 breezes through the getting the band together part of that formula by condensing it into a few montages and changing the initial animosity dynamic between the setter and his dumb, athletically gifted co-star from rivalry to the tension between long-estranged childhood friends. This buys the series time to focus on the things that set it apart from Haikyuu, like its setting, small-town Hokkaido, a beautiful place that more anime should be set in, if this and Erased are any indication. Setter boy Chika also has a deep existing connection to this place, having grown up here before moving to Tokyo, and in between the exciting getting kinda good at a sport part of the plot, the show spends a lot of time bittersweetly ruminating on how he, this place, and his friend Uni have changed. Though clearly he's still got some changing left to do, as he's still toting around the same toxic drive to win that made him do way more fucked up things than Kageyama ever did back at his old school. Regrets that he's obviously trying real hard to repress by living this Haikyuu-esque underdog fantasy. 2.43 is based on a light novel series, not a manga, and its sister manga adaptation runs in a josei magazine, that's manga aimed at young women, so it feels considerably more literary than most shonen sports things, more concerned with characters and drama than raw hype. If other josei anime like Run with the Wind and Chihayafuru are any indication, it will probably still deliver some pretty hype moments, just with more feels in between, before it ultimately goes down as the best show this year that almost nobody watched. To be fair, that sort of thing can be an acquired taste. Sometimes you just want to inject the adrenaline of animated athletic excellence directly into your sensory organs. And for those times, there's the second ones-to-watchest anime of winter 2021, Skate the Infinity, which appeals to me, personally, by invoking such nostalgic totems as Beyblade's excessive aesthetics and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater's coolest level, Downhill Jam, and to anime fans generally by looking like what you're looking at now. Hiroko Utsumi is a KyoAni-trained animator with nothing but certified bangers under her belt, who previously directed Free over there and the excellent modern adaptation of Banana Fish over at MAPPA, before taking this original combat skateboarding anime over to Bones, one of the few studios one can go to from KyoAni without it being a downgrade. On top of her, Skate the Infinity features the talents of Code Geass screenwriter and creator Ichiro Okochi, Boku no Hero and Kekai Sensen compositing director Masataka Ikegami, and other sound design god Masafumi Mima, who viewers of my Initial D retrospective might recognize as the mind behind the Pokeball sound and the rich soundscape of Attack on Titan. Also, Ryo Takahashi, composer of the Princess Principal OP and Aka 13's OST, did the music, so it ain't just the effects that sound crisp as all get out. And that music is used exceptionally well to accentuate the action. Skate the Infinity could have been nothing more than a plotless animated skateboard trick reel created through the fusion of these divine talents, and it probably still would have made this list, but what pushes it to the top, or second from it, is its over-the-top story about a secret underground skateboard race in Okinawa, another place more anime should be in, where weirdos with elaborate costumes and custom boards, many of whom are respectable business people in their working hours, hurtle down an abandoned mine shaft at insane speeds, throwing punches and small explosives at each other. And again, the series appeals to me, personally, by throwing a Canadian exchange student named Langa down that mine shaft, who has never skated before but gets the hang of it quickly thanks to his experience snowboarding. A false stereotype that I'm willing to overlook because he also loves poutine and is accurately prone to apologizing. Sorry if I'm focusing too much on my personal biases. To put its appeal as broadly as possible, Skate the Infinity is basically Tony Hawk meets Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, only with the real Initial D sound designer and some top-tier shonen protags and villains. If you can't get on board with that, I don't think we can be friends. I did, however, promise to mention some not quite as good anime honorably, so before you go, here I go. Heaven's Design Department is another solid piece of work comedy edutainment that follows a team of freelance angels as they work to fill God's often bizarre critter commissions and teach you a thing or two about biology. Each angel's personality matches their design specialty in funny ways, and in general, the comedy here is on point. It was honestly a coin toss between including this and Cells at Work Black, but that one just gave me a little more to say. I have quite a lot to say about bottom-tier character Tomozaki-kun, a self-help guide for gamers disguised as a rom-com about the world's best Smash player discovering that the world's second-best Smash player is a popular girl in his class who actually showers. I'm just not sure if it's actually good yet. It contains some solid, simple advice on how to improve one's appearance and rebukes the nihilistic life is just a crappy game mentality while still offering some emotional affirmation for lonely nerds, but it also feels vaguely pickup artisty. If it dodges that bullet, though, it could become a solid diet oregairu. Speaking of diet things, Wave Let's Go Surfing hits a lot of the same beats as Skate the Infinity, right down to the protagonist who's unexpectedly great at a sport he's never done because of past life experience. It hits those beats way more clumsily, and its CGI is straight up fugly, but it does have the Wizard of the Waifu board, which is something. Vladlove, the new vampire comedy anime from Mamoru Oshii, also has something in the brilliant art direction and regular direction of its first episode, which is free to watch on YouTube. Sadly, one thing it doesn't have, so far, is good jokes. Still, the original works of legendary anime directors are almost always worth keeping an eye on, and I will be keeping an eye on it. So too are the works of film directors who've never made an anime before, yet are bold enough to declare war on all the sci-fi series of the world, which includes Oshii's Ghost in the Shell and Patlabur, with their first anime, when it looks like this. X-Arm is very, very not good, but in infinitely fascinating ways, like the slow-motion wreck of a train whose every car contains its own train wreck, shrunken and frozen in time. I would never advise any of you to watch it, but I definitely will be, and there will be a roast that you can watch in the near future. Alright, I've mentioned every anime I wanted to now, and I can already feel the metric ton of caffeine that I've been running on since Christmas fading, so I'm gonna go collapse. But if you want to watch more videos before watching all these good anime, there's some of my best recent ones on screen right now. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitba.